Did this ever happen to you? Did Sombra camp you or one of your teammates all game? Did you also lose the game and felt powerless against her? If so, in this video, I'll go over what you can start doing now to win more games against Sombra. As always, in this series, I'll go over her kit, the general strategy, tips to counter her, and we end on the best counter picks for each role. First of all, to counter Sombra and specifically this hero, you really do need to understand her kit. For primary fire, she has a short range automatic weapon called Machine Pistol. It does about 140 damage per second while firing and 196 if the target is hacked. It does more damage to targets that are hacked due to her passive. Opportunist lets Sombra deal more damage to hacked targets by 40%. It also gives her a sort of wall hack similar to Widowmaker, where Sombra sees enemies that are below 50% health. The only difference here between Widows and Sombras is that only Sombra sees the critical injured through walls. For secondary fire, Sombra has the infamous hack ability. She hacks enemies to temporarily stop them from using their abilities. The maximum range is 15 meters. This is very useful for the counter pick section later in this video. The targets are hacked for 10 seconds and the ability itself has 4 seconds cooldown. Sombra can also hack health packs, which makes them spawn faster and make them unusable by enemies. If Sombra receives damage while she's hacking a target, the hack is interrupted immediately. This is also important to remember for the later section in this video. Her L-shift ability is stealth. That's what she uses to run around. She becomes invisible and gains a whopping 60% movement buff. The cooldown on the ability is 6 seconds and there is no duration at all. You can literally stay invisible the whole game. That would also mean you didn't fire at anyone, so I would not recommend doing that. You can expect a lot of Sombra, do something in the chat from your teammates. While invisible, turrets or Cassidy's ultimate can't target her unless she is detected. There are a few ways to detect her that we will also cover. However, the most important point is that it has a distinct sound effect in voiceover that you need to be able to identify. If you hear this, at least know that Sombra is around 50 meters from you in any given direction. Just by knowing this, you almost know how to counter her. Translocator is what Sombra tosses out to a location, and when she uses this ability, she teleports back to said location. If for any reason Sombra would like to change the location, she can cancel it with the F key and toss it out again to another. The beacon itself doesn't have a duration, it can stay at one spot all game. Good Sombra players would time the teleport back carefully, as she has 0.4 seconds window of invulnerability. The beacon is not invisible, any player can see and destroy it, although sometimes doing so is not the best decision. EMP is Sombra's ultimate. It's similar to hack but not on a specific target. It's an area of effect of 50 meters again that deals 40% damage of current health to enemies in the radius. It also destroys any barriers and disables turret in Sombra's line of sight. However, there is one barrier or hint bubble that is not destroyable. If you know which one I'm talking about, let me know in the comments below. Also, while casting EMP, Sombra gains a negligible vertical boost, a small jump. Now that you know how her kit works, you need to understand the strategy behind Sombra's playstyle. Usually Sombra targets isolated enemies and low health enemies. A good Sombra player won't engage every time they see you though. They would stay beyond the 15 meters range so you don't get the audio clue. While doing so, she might ping your location to her team. So if you ever wondered why you got killed while standing behind cover, know that Sombra probably pinged your location and their whole team just spammed that location till you die. Also, Sombra will always try to target a hero on your team that heavily relies on abilities. Quick example, if Sombra targets a Pharah, she falls and it's an almost guaranteed death. Another example would be Reinhardt. Hacking him will leave him shieldless, and what is a Reinhardt without a shield? Coordination is key when playing against Sombra. I hate adding this tip since all of us play solo queue, but even if you have below average to average communication on your team, letting them know that you heard Sombra near you would help them a ton. You guys can now coordinate better if Sombra shows up next to you, as you and your team are ready to react. Good communication is the key, but I do know that some of us don't have the luxury to play with friends. For those people, some individual tips will be shown later in the video. Now, what are the best picks to counter Sombra? Before I start, I would like to make something very clear. All counters are counters if you actually play the matchup right. Picking a counter and not knowing what to do won't help you at all. You will most likely still lose. As a damaged player, there are no hard counters. There are 3 picks that would put into soft to medium or maybe even medium hard counters. First counter is Hanzo. Theoretically speaking, Hanzo should demolish Sombra and make her life a living hell. Why, do you ask? Well, Sonic Arrow reveals Sombra. That's it. That's all I have to say. Revealing her is the biggest counter. You cannot get flanked if you know where she is, right? Let's put that to the side for a moment. What happens if you don't find her with Sonic Arrow and she manages to flank you? Your arrows can potentially destroy her. I would put Hanzo as the best counter on this list, but it will highly depend on how comfortable you are with him. If you're confident with your short range aim, you'll one-shot Sombra before she even hacks you. Next is Junkrat. I would put him as a soft counter. There are no ways for you to reveal Sombra, right? However, if you're smart enough and understand her kit, you would know that wherever you are, Sombra will most likely come from behind behind, so you can lay your traps accordingly if you fight in a tight space where there's only one way to be flanked. Place a trap there and monitor it. If Sombra isn't that good, you will fall for the trap and you turn around and blast her to shreds. If Sombra is a decent player and destroys your trap, then you know she's behind you. Be ready to turn and one-shot her with one grenade and bomb to the face. You have a way to reveal her without revealing her, if you know what I mean. Mei is another soft, and I mean very soft counter. If you react fast enough, you can instantly freeze yourself and buy time. Once you're out, you can ice wall Sombra away and force her back. As always, if you hear the sound clue, be ready to freeze yourself. It'll be hard for you to kill Sombra as Mei's damage isn't high. However, in this matchup, the most important part is not dying. As long as you survive, you're doing good. Reaper would also work. Reaper is one of the strongest, if not the strongest hero in short range combat. You can easily outdamage Sombra if she ever shows up, and if you don't, you wraith form away to safety. Anyways, a good Sombra would know to not show up next to you if you're full health. Still worth mentioning though, that matchup is not bad for Reaper. Soldier 76 is neutral. Not bad nor good, but worth mentioning. If you survive the 1.75 seconds hack, you instantly pop Biotic Field. If you fight in it, you won't die. My personal tip is when you're hacked, start moving weirdly. Jump, strafe, play cat and mouse around a pillar, anything to survive the hack period. Once that's done, you'll force Sombra back. The same tip applies here. If you hear this sound clue, instantly heal yourself. Healing yourself before getting hacked is always better, but sometimes I do admit it's not easy. The last one is Widowmaker. She's the last one for a reason. You either counter Sombra hard or you're countered harder. This matchup relies heavily on your personal skill. Let me explain. The first one to land headshots wins. So if you're confident in your ability to land close, and I mean practically in your face range headshots, you'll be fine. If not, please switch immediately as you're one of the easiest targets for Sombra. Do not pick Tracer ever. I'm confident on this one, so I won't say that if you play it right, you can win. Imagine playing Tracer with her 150 health pool, but you can't recall or blink away. Yes, that's called feeding. Expect reports from teammates. Switch as soon as possible. Also, do not pick Bastion. This one I'll be more lenient. I would not say it's as extreme as Tracer, but if you watch the Bastion video, you know all your damage comes from assault mode where Bastion looks like a small tank. Well, guess what? If you're hacked, you can't switch, so you'll be stuck in recon mode. Hard pass for me. Now, as a tank player, you have way more wiggle room. Sombra is not as strong as Reaper for killing tanks, but she can be extremely annoying, so it's rare that a Sombra will try to flank you, especially if your supports are there. Our number one favorite hero that we all love because she's fair and balanced, Zarya. In this matchup, it's more of a reactive matchup for Zarya. You can simply bubble anyone that gets hacked, saving your teammates and forcing Sombra back. It's important to note that although you're saving your teammates from dying, you're not removing the hacked effect. If she ever shows up to you, which I doubt she will, but we never know, you easily survive the hack duration and then bubble yourself. Overall, since it's a reactive matchup, I would put it as neutral. You're not countering her, she can still hack people, and she's not either. Orisa is another great pick against Sombra, one of the best tanks to run actually. Orisa's Fortify is unaffected by her hack. For this matchup to be heavily in Orisa's favor, you would need great awareness. If you hear her coming, just be prepared to javelin her into a wall. If you do, she dies instantly. Sombra is super weak against crowd control. The last tank is Winston. Your chances of surviving are great. You have your shield that you can place, but that's not where Winston shines in this matchup. By playing Winston the way you're supposed to play him, aka jumping everywhere and whatnot, you have a great chance of detecting Sombra in the way. Plus, your primary fire is a sure way to detect her. If you suspect her to be near you, just spam in any given direction and you'll most likely find her. I still think that out of the three tanks, Winston is the weakest in this matchup though. We have a few do not pick for tanks as well. Do not pick Wrecking Ball. He is the worst tank hands down. If you get hacked as Hammond in the middle of a fight, you're dead. Instantly. A Wrecking Ball that can roll around is as good as Tracer that can blink. Switch away before your team reports you. Do not pick Reinhardt. He is the second worst tank against Sombra. If she manages to hack you, you won't be able to put up your shield. However, if you're still watching this video, I'll give you one tip. If you're going to play this matchup, be aware of Sombra position and instantly flick your shield in her direction. If she's behind you, you turn around and put up your shield. That will interrupt her and you won't get hacked. But you do understand that you need to be able to flick in any given direction at any given moment. It's hard, but doable for my high sense mouse players. Any other tank in the game is either countered, soft, or medium. It might work in your game or your elo, but it's not recommended. Now, as a support player, there are two picks that are excellent against Sombra. The first pick is Ana, if you have good aim. You don't need to see Sombra for you to be able to sleep her. If you do lend your sleep, you win. Add some coordination if you have a Hanzo or a Widowmaker that can reveal her, and it's a sure way to shut her down. If you miss your sleep, my friend, run or you'll die. The next one is Bridget, or also known as
Brigitte. Brigitte? Brigitte. Brigitte. Brigitte.
Listen, This depends on how you play Bridget. If you play her like a damage and you're constantly diving their backline, it won't work. The only way you win this matchup is by sticking with your team and keeping Sombra away of your team with shield bash. Also, keep in mind that you are support, so when I say you win the matchup or at least you're favored, it doesn't mean you will kill Sombra every time she appears. A good Sombra will still kill you though. All it means is you'll be able to significantly reduce her impact over the game. I have one support that you should absolutely avoid as much as Wrecking Ball: Lucio. It's simple. You get hacked, you won't be able to use your songs, but that's obvious, right? Well, for Lucio, it's worse. It also stops your current song, so you won't be able to speed away your team or heal them. Can it get any worse for Lucio? Absolutely it can. When you use your ultimate, Sound Barrier, and provide your team with that big shield, well, Sombra cancels that out with EMP. It instantly destroys your ultimate. Not switching would be considered intentionally losing in my opinion. All in all, the best way to play against Sombra is to do everything you can to reveal her. Spam your primary fire, put traps behind, sonic arrows if you're playing Hanzo, and sound cues of her approaching. Once you hear her, communicate with your team. I can't stress this enough. You combine these tips with the right counter picks that you obviously practice in casual before pulling them off in comp, you won't ever get flanked or hacked by Sombra.